Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, January 25th meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust and welcome you all here today. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the January 11th meeting, and these minutes have been distributed to the trustees previously and they've had a chance to review them. Are there corrections or additions to the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. Any further questions? All those in favor, please cast your votes. Oops. And the issue carries. Next on is to ratify some claims, and the claims again have been distributed to you previously. Are there any questions on any of the claims? There were two gold claims and the rest were TIF claims. Kathy, you want to say anything specific about the gold claims?
The gold claims, one was for the administration of the Strategic Investment Program by the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce for $2,500, and the other one was an allocation of the costs of the audit of the trust. So we allocate that among our different sources of funding, and Gold paid for a very small portion of that audit.
Are there any questions or comments on the trust, on the claims? The chair would entertain a motion to ratify the claims.
So moved.
Have a motion made and second. Please cast your votes. And the issue passes. Trustee Lopez is not here right now, so we'll try again. Please cast your votes. And the issue passes. Thank you very much. Next are some items for individual consideration. Item A is concurrence with the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust in ratifying and approving amendment number 1 to the contract, adopting a resolution awarding the contract to Southwest Water Works, and this is a project associated with PAYCOM, Memorial Road and Council Road, $161,000. Kathy, do you have anything specific you'd like to say about that?
One thing I'd like to say about these items is that the bids for the improvements came in slightly under what we anticipated. I think originally we had planned to allocate about $1.7 million to PAYCOM for these improvements, and that the total that the Economic Development Trust will be funding is about $1,582,000. Aquat, the city's water utility trust, is sharing in the cost of these improvements as well because of the improvements that it makes to the system in that part of Oklahoma City.
Are there any questions on the addendum that we are approving here? The addendum essentially dealt with some routine matters at that came up at the pre-bid conference, corrections on and clarifications. So, the chair would entertain a motion for concurrence.
Move it.
Have motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those cast your votes, please. And the issue is concurred with. Item B is a related project. This is an amendment, number 1, to the same project, and we're getting a little bit of money back on this particular project. It amounts to a 4.29% decrease in the overall cost of the project. The amendment number 1 returns $6,940 to the trust. Are there any questions or comments? Second?
Second.
A motion made and seconded to concur with on item B, and the item concurs with. Thank you very much. Item C is concurrence with the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust to approve plans and specifications and authorize the secretary to advertise for bids. Project SB0032 SC0798 sanitary sewer relief mains between Rockwell Avenue and Council Road from 1/2 mile south of Memorial Road to 1/2 mile north of 164th Street. As I recall, this project is also related to PAYCOM. Are there any questions about this particular project?
Second.
A motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Cast your votes, and we concur with item C. Okay, item D gets us back into familiar grounds. This is some of our work downtown. Change order number 1 and amendment number 1 to project PC 0380-10 WC 0677 and SC 0802 project 180 Streetscape West Reno Avenue from Dewey Avenue to E.K. Gaylord Boulevard and North Robinson Avenue from West Reno Avenue to West Sheridan Avenue. And it's a TIF 8 expenditure. Kathy, is there anything you'd like to say about this project?
I don't have anything in particular to say, except that it does provide for additional funding for certain changes in what we call Package 1. Mike Clark from Public Works is here if you need any additional information about what some of the changes were.
I think questions or comments? The Chair would entertain a motion to approve the change order.
So moved.
Second. Okay, please cast your votes. And the change order is approved. Item E is is a report on economic and community development activities and accomplishments by the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce and the Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation for the second quarter. Robin, are you ready? We're ready for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe you have the packets that we provided with you. The bound is the metrics and kind of a summary of our activities, and then the portfolio in the back has some of the materials that we provided, that we produced for you in the last quarter. A couple of quick things that I wanted to talk to you about, and then I will go to questions rather than going through this line by line. I wanted to draw your attention to the SBIR conference that we hosted in Oklahoma City in November. That's the Small Business Innovation Research Grants. 19 different federal agencies put money into these research grants, and Oklahoma has not performed well as a state in accessing these grants, and they are predominantly for small businesses that are starting up with new technologies. So we pursued and were awarded the national conference here in Oklahoma City. There were over 500 attendees, and we were very pleased to tell you that 180 were from Oklahoma. Our goal getting these companies and potential companies to the conference to learn a little bit more about how to do these grants. And in the future, you'll hear more about SBIR. We're going to be doing some things with I2E, OCAST, and some other partners to try and help these firms in pursuing these grant applications. Again, the conference was a great success. We had a lot of the federal agencies here in speaking roles that actually make decisions on these grants, and it was good for us to be able to showcase Oklahoma City and make sure they understood that we are very aggressive in our efforts to do a better job of getting these grants for our companies. Also wanted to note that one of the series of ads we did in the Journal Record and another publication are in your packets, just so you can see examples of some of the ads to try and get Oklahoma companies to understand what the conference was about and why it was a good thing for them. We also inserted in your handout what we call our tabloid. We do this quarterly. Sometimes it has a focus, like on aerospace. This is more of a general one, but it is something we send out to the site selectors nationally and internationally, current things happening in Oklahoma, to try and make sure that they're aware of the good things happening here. I also wanted to share with you something that we don't talk about a lot, but I think it's really important. We had a company in the last quarter that announced they would be laying some of their staff off. And we were able to look at our databases and know we had other companies with the exact same skill sets that were hiring. And so we were able to go to the company, we connected all the HR directors, and we facilitated a career fair with 6 companies that were hiring with the 24 employees that were being laid off, and it was a very successful event. These are things that are under the radar. They're very specific and tailored to certain skill sets, employees, and companies. This was all in the healthcare industry. But it was a win-win, because it was not only a win for the employees, it was a win for the companies who were looking for workers. So just wanted to kind of share with you some of the things we do quietly sometimes based on the needs of our companies. Also wanted to talk a little bit about our metrics. On the leads, prospects, and locates, we're either at or ahead of schedule where we should be 2 quarters into our 4-quarter year. And again, seeing more activity on expansion, but we are also starting to see an uptick on the recruitment, the new-to-market companies. We hosted a large company last week in town. It was a very large project, and we're on the short list for that project. And this week we have an international company in town that's looking at a North American headquarters. So again, we're seeing increased activity, and we believe based on trends. That has a lot to do with the economy, and also a lot of companies that have been sitting on cash, frankly, are now starting to move on some of that. So we hope that that trend continues. The metrics in your document are for 6 months out of the city's fiscal year. I'm going to give you some metrics, and I don't want to confuse everybody. Our chamber runs on a calendar year, and so our metrics are January through December, but our city contract metrics are July 1 through June 30. But we now have a 5-year snapshot of how we did in economic development based on some 5-year goals that we set forth back in 2005. And I thought you might be interested in how we did on that. We had a local tax revenue goal of $17.5 million. And again, these are projects we assisted with. There are other projects, obviously, that were successful we weren't involved in. These are the ones the Chamber was involved in. And on a $17.5 million goal over 5 years, we were involved in $62.3 million in tax revenues, and that includes property, real and personal, and sales tax collections as well. Capital investment, we just missed it. We had in 5 years a goal of $1.3 billion, and we came in at $1.2 billion. But I kind of liked that number anyway. I was pretty happy with that number. So we were thrilled with the size of the capital investment that was tied to these projects. Average salary, our goal was $42,000 a year and some change, and we came in at almost $46,000, $45,659. Our payroll goal was $900 million over 5 years, and we came in at $1.2 billion. So we were really pleased with that. Our goal, and again, we were doing the best we could based on data 5 years ago. Our goal was to work with 120 projects. We worked with 302. A lot of that has to do with doubling our business retention and expansion staff. We're able to work with more companies locally and adding an additional recruiter in that time frame. And then also, I think the city, through the SIP and other programs, we're as competitive, I think, as we've ever been as a location. And then our 5-year goal on jobs was 30,000, and we came in at just under 26,000. So of 6 metrics, we made 4 out of the 6, and we almost made the other 2. So just, I thought it might be interesting for you to kind of know, year to year things can peak and valley, but over a 5-year period where we ended up with those metrics. Also, we're looking forward to coming to you over the next 30 to 60 days and bringing you up to speed on where we are on biosciences. And also on Friday, we'll be releasing our Oklahoma City economic forecast for 2011. And we'll be bringing that to you hopefully at the next trust meeting, should the schedule allow for that time. I'm going to have Allison talk a little bit about a couple of things that are going on in retail, and then we will entertain questions. Does that work for everyone? Thank you. Allison?
Hi. I'll apologize in advance. We had a little miscue in our office, and I wasn't aware that I was going to be at this meeting, so I don't have a whole lot in writing, and hopefully if you ask me a question, I'll have it committed to memory. But to Robin's point, we work on a calendar year at the Chamber, and so I can give you a little bit of a summary on some of the things that we've accomplished in the retail program in calendar year 2010. We had 69 new recruits or assists for retail contacts, and when I say recruits or assist, clearly it's somebody that we're calling on that we would like to see land in Oklahoma City, and often it is a tenant who is already in Oklahoma City that's looking for a second location. Very often they're looking for things from us like site analysis, some data research. Sometimes it's just making contact with a property landlord or developer for a retailer who already has a site selected. And so we had 69 new recruits and assists in 2010, 40 follow-up recruits and assists for retailers that we'd made contact with in a previous year, and 258 total contacts made, meaning if I talked to Whole Foods 10 times in 1 month, I counted that once, and so 258 total contacts made over the year. And just for a snapshot on the 5-year program, since we started this retail program in 2007, with the Chamber active recruits and assists, we currently have 30 really solid leads that we're working with to locate retailers to Oklahoma City. These are either retailers that have come to us and said, we want to find space here, help us, or they're retailers that we've gone to and said, why aren't you here? So 30 of those are active. 2 of those, by the way, are downtown grocery stores that we feel as optimistic about as we have in 5 years about a downtown grocery store. Hopefully they can make the financials work, and we might actually see a downtown grocery store in the next couple of years. In 2007, the program began, and we had 0 openings announced for any active recruits and assist. In 2008, that number went to 2. In 2009, we had 1. 2010, we can announce 12 openings of retailers that we actively participated in helping them with their location expansion, remodel, whatever it was that we helped them with. And in 2011, certainly with Whole Foods and the Factory Outlet Mall opening, we can already announce 24 openings that we have actively recruited or assisted for retailers. And again, because I didn't know that I was going to be presenting, I didn't bring enough copies, but a snapshot of the Oklahoma City retail sales tax collections from July to December last year compared to July to December of this year. We are up in all broad retail categories with the exception of furniture and home furnishings and equipment, but it's a very healthy retail outlook. And we feel like this isn't just a blip on the radar screen, that maybe we are actively, probably on the turn, and we've seen the worst of the recession. And I can pass this out. And I don't know whether you've been made aware that the Outlet Mall in West Oklahoma City is, in fact, the largest retail project happening in the country right now in terms of retail investment. So we've got that plus the Devon Tower, so we've got a lot to brag about in Oklahoma City. So I'll entertain questions.
Presenters? Robin, I have a question. On one of the charts behind section tab B, the first chart, this is a short-term report similar to the one you gave us over your 5-year period. Where it shows 2010 goals, is that for the fiscal year 2010 or the calendar year 2010?
Your report that's bound is for your fiscal year. So this is a July 1 through June 30. That is 2 months.
Okay.
The goal, we just converted the goals to match your fiscal year. So they're not the same as the ones I use. We just basically shifted them by 6 months. I will say that when I come back to you for next year's scope of work, we spent the last year and a half, a couple of the trustees are aware of this, relooking at our metrics and really looking at where today, with some of the technology we have, how we can slice and dice the numbers, do a better job, and really think hard about where we track. And so we will have, I think, a much better group of metrics. It won't look like this. It will be, I think, in a better format. But because of the way our fiscal years worked, we needed to finish out this fiscal year through June 30 with you, and then we'll bring back some new metrics.
Well, as good as these metrics are, I wouldn't give them up very easily.
You what?
As good as these are, I wouldn't give them up very easily. The results are astounding. Your payroll target for 2010, and I'm assuming that's the full year, was $180 million, and year-to-date, which is just a half the year, I'm assuming,
right,
is $165 million. So I think it's pretty impressive. What the number here that got my attention was the average salary. Your full-year estimate was $42,000 plus, and the actual is $65,000. So you've done an extraordinarily good job.
We have 2 large projects between July 1 and December 30 that have very high salaries, and that has really helped a lot. So yes, it's again, that sometimes that 5-year is helpful because it lets you see with the peaks and valleys what the trend is overall.
But I think this is the kind of information that's really encouraging.
Yes.
Short-term kind of thing, because
thank you.
We have a short-term perspective sometimes, I'm afraid.
I understand.
But thank you. Any other questions? Frank?
What was the percentage of change in total retail year over year? In a percentage?
Total retail sales?
Well, the numbers that you were quoting, year over year, what would be the
total
change?
retail sales tax collections are up about 8% for the
8%
calendar year,
year over year.
2010.
Oh,
that'll get adjusted. The retailers report to the tax commission, and they estimate the first 15 days of, or the last 15 days of December. So that'll get adjusted, but that's where we ended.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your reports. The next item on our agenda, regardless of how it may be lettered, is a report on the Oklahoma City Trust audited annual financial reports. Are there any questions or comments on the report? I would point out that it is a clean report. We got a solid recommendation from the auditors, and I think that's a tribute. There was one item that the auditors pointed out as a deficiency, and it had to do with accounts payable cutoff. Has that been addressed?
I'll let our accountant, Matt Boggs, answer that question.
As far as the accounts payable deficiency that was determined, that what has been done is there is a new procedures going in to make sure that all of the vouchers that come through are double checked, because the situation we ran into was that there was just projects that were between 2 fiscal years, and those amounts weren't accrued in fiscal year 2010, and so they were showed up fully in 2011. That was the only thing.
It was just basically an accounting process kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions on the report? Very good. Well, I wanted you to thank the staff and all involved for coming up with producing results that would result in turn in a quality report like this. It was lots of numbers in there, and you guys did a good job, so thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we do need a motion to receive
Okay.
the annual.
The Secretary's pointed out we needed a motion to receive the accounting report.
I'd like to move to receive, please.
We have a motion made and second. Any further discussion? Cast your votes, and the report is received. So we did it legally. Okay, the next item is General Manager's reports. This is a report that we get periodically. Brett, do you have any comments, anything you'd like to call our specific attention to?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments on the report? It does have a pretty good summary of the TIF dollars that we spent on various projects, but I think it's very helpful. So, any comments or questions?
Not specific to the report, but just wondering, how's the general feedback on Project 180? I know people sit there and go, oh, gosh darn, I got to go around. But it seems like what I hear anecdotally is, no, we understand. It's going to be better. And so I was just wondering to see if that's anything that you have that's more substantive than just my friends talking.
I think for the most part, people are very understanding and and seem to be thrilled to see the progress, in downtown Oklahoma City in general, and they're willing to put up with a little pain for the end product. We do get complaints, and we do try to deal with those as effectively as we can. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it, but we do impact businesses, and we do get calls from people, and people get upset with us. Andrea French is here, and I'm sure she would be glad to offer you with any other more specific information about what she's hearing, but does she have okay, I did not know that. I'm a little out of the loop this morning, but we have a little presentation about Project 180 and some of the progress this morning. So, yeah, thank you.
Andrea, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As mentioned, my name is Andrea French, and I am the Project 180 liaison. And what that basically means is that I handle communications on all different kinds of levels. And since this is the first time that I've actually come before this group, I wanted to kind of run through a little bit about the communications side of Project 180, and then I'll go through some project updates. And I do have my trusty expert on hand in case there's any real technical questions about the project. First, I want to look at some of the branding that we've done and kind of how we've taken the branding and used it in different forms. And really the main purpose of this and what's made it really effective is that it identifies the construction with something, and it demonstrates what type of funds are being used for the construction, because there's a lot of confusion between MAPS 3, Core to Shore, and things like that. Whenever I give presentations, I really have to explain that this is something completely separate. And so the branding really has helped with that. This next slide just shows some of the online outreach that we're currently doing. We have several hundred Facebook fans. We have over 500 Twitter followers. We have over 2,000 subscribers to the weekly Makeover Magazine newsletter, which traditionally provides some project updates and instant traffic, urgent traffic messages on an as-needed basis. And we actually have about, over 4,000 photos, construction photos, up on Flickr that are completely accessible to the public. They can download them in their original quality. And I've actually calculated you can go on and see how many views, and we've had over 3,000 views of those photos. So they are being looked at pretty frequently. Another important piece of the communication, obviously the traffic control and wayfinding. You'll see there's probably about 30 to 40 of these wayfinding signs on the right-hand portion of the slide, which really help identify that the businesses are still open, the city offices or city facilities are still open and accessible during construction, and that's helped tremendously. We also look at specific needs to businesses. While we can't specifically market for the businesses during construction, we can help them where we've limited access. For example, MICU, where we've cut off a normal access point for their drive-through, we can note that you can access it off of a different route. This is part of the weekly traffic advisory that we send out. Every Friday, the traffic advisory goes out through the city's public information office, and we have worked with one of our local consultants to help us design this traffic map, which maybe has lost some resolution in this particular slide, but has proved very, very helpful for the general public and for businesses that actually reprint them and often hand them out to their patrons. For example, the Marriott that sits right next to the arena has really enjoyed providing this for their customers. We also continue to do presentations and hold public meetings when necessary. Just at a quick count, we've done over 75 presentations to local civic groups, businesses, and then of course we've held the public meeting series here in the chamber, the council chamber, which has also proven very successful. And also continue to do property visits. This is myself, this is our consultants, our engineers, and any other project managers that go out there and meet with the businesses on a regular basis. It can be as needed, it can be planned. We did a whole series of visits for each individual streetscape package before construction so that they could understand some of the constraints and challenges that they were going to face. And then obviously we get the most visits during construction and the most calls because they never anticipate maybe just how challenging it might be for them. So we, and the timelines, there's some uneasiness with some of the timelines. Construction can take a little longer than anticipated. So we continue to do those on a daily and weekly basis. And I put this up here because, in the beginning I talked a little bit about external and internal communications. And with a project of this magnitude, the internal communications are just as important, if not more important, than some of the external communications. And so we have weekly traffic committee meetings, utility coordination meetings, and construction coordination meetings where everybody talks to everybody else so that everything can keep moving at the pace that it's moving. This is actually, nobody else has seen this. This is the new concept for the new website that we are currently trying to create. If you visited the current website, it's a little passive right now. It's just off of the OKC.gov website, and it's not very interactive. Doesn't give us a lot of opportunity to continually update urgent messages and things like that. So we are working with a web development firm to make a more interactive website that will include a more interactive construction map, as well as you can see the new color updates for traffic advisories. And we're also looking at doing text alerts through the website too, which is pretty exciting, being able to reach everybody on their cell phone when there's a closure. Oh, yes. We are looking at that right now. I remember that you had asked about the iPhone app, so I know we're trying to do as much as we can in that regard because that is really important. We actually have a final design/concept meeting with them tomorrow afternoon, and we'll be talking about that. Now I'm going to kind of run through some of the different pieces of Project 180 and the projects. This is actually a current shot of looking northwest into the gardens as of 12:30 today. You can see lots of activity. And this is actually looking towards the east, towards the arena. You can see the Crystal Bridge and the renovations to the West Lake. This is a great picture because these are some of the stones, they're often called stones, I think they look more like boulders, being placed carefully for the new cascading waterfall. It's going to sit about 20 to 25 feet high. And that's on the northeast side of the Crystal Bridge. This is a shot of the renovations to the West Lake, You can see, I don't know how clear the resolution is on your screen, but you can already see how you can see right through and into the Crystal Bridge and how clear those new panels are. And the heavier planting on the left and the right, as well as the new concrete. This is, again, I'm not sure how colorful it is on your screen. I like this picture because this is actually workers that are mocking up the new lithocrete design that's going to be in the children's area. And the lithocrete, if you're not familiar with that material, is a really durable concrete that's usually got crushed glass or marble or shells in it. This particular kind has got the crushed glass. More durable, a lot more attractive, and we will have the lithocrete sidewalks that are currently in and line the perimeter of the mirrored gardens. And then we also have these colorful lithocrete designs that will be in the children's area. This is Reno looking east. You can see La Luna sits right there. This is to show you the brand new sidewalks, curbs, and pavers that are in and for the amenity zone. The crews along Reno and the Reno area continue to move at a quick pace and work towards their April 1st deadline. We are hoping to be able to flip traffic to the north side, which you can see is completely paved, and begin work on the south side of Reno in the next couple of weeks. We really have to examine what the pedestrian access is going to look like along Reno for events before we do that, so we're currently trying to discuss that and make sure we have the best plan in place for pedestrian access. Then we move up to around the memorial for package 2. This is looking south along Harvey. If you're standing at Northwest 6th, you can see that we've actually opened up that northern portion of Harvey to allow access to the post office again off of 6th. Completely paved. Intersection at 5th has completely been paved, 5th and Harvey. And then these are some of the pavers that are actually right in front of the 903 gate for the National Memorial, and they look a lot better in person actually, but it's a beautiful shot of that. This is Northwest 5th looking west, right in front of the Regency Tower apartments. You can see the curb there with the pavers as well complete, and the crews are they've completed the south portion of Northwest 5th, and they're currently working along the northern side of Northwest 5th. So they're right on top of the Regency right now, which has been challenging for them. And this is Harvey further south. I believe it's from 4th to McGee. This is the aggregate base that they're putting in to begin preparing for paving. You can see they weren't working that day. That was when we had a little bit of snowfall, too cold for paving. I move down to the Walker package. This is the southeast corner of the intersection of Sheridan and Walker. And if you notice, in most cases, we've really tried to do a quadrant at a time for intersections. Intersections, I have learned in this process, are the most tedious part because you cannot completely shut them down entirely and get in there and work. So we really try to either do half or a quadrant at a time. So you see the crews here actually paving the southeast quadrant of Sheridan and Walker. And this is back behind the curb, further south along Walker. This is actually the amenity zone and the Silva-Cell material. They'll put in the first layer, and then they come in and put in the pipe that's needed for the irrigation and all that for all of the trees and tree wells that are going to sit behind the curb along the amenity zone. Then they'll come in and seal up the top layer. And we most recently, the movement that you most recently may have seen is tearing up from Walker to Hudson on the north half of West Main. And at this time, this also includes work on the high tower basement, because that basement is one of those that actually comes out underneath the sidewalk. So I think that's it. Questions?
Questions or comments? Frank?
Yes.
Which project will be finished first? So people can see something that's finished. Once they see a finished project, then I think...
I know, that's what everyone says. Well, we have, internally we have little milestones and goals, and we can see that, for instance, we've gotten so much of a section worth of, street paved, and we've got the amenities in, full completion, benches and everything. That's really challenging at this point. Mike, do you want to offer anything about that first completed project? Package 1? That they have the deadline of April 1st in time for the mirrored gardens. So I don't know if that means that every single bench will be in. I don't know, but that's what we're working towards.
Larry, have you had comments from your constituents? You and I both serve boards that don't impact downtown immediately.
No, I haven't, and I personally have not found any difficulty getting around. You have to be a little creative, but
I like that.
And lucky.
well, it's more creative than luck, I think.
The only comment I had is sort of like Frank's question is, and I'm paraphrasing, are you ever going to finish a project before you start another one?
Yeah. Well, yes, we are actually...
Great starters, but...
We will not be starting any new streetscape or public plaza or park projects until you're going to start to see some more completed streets. So after the 2011 Arts Festival, we won't begin any new construction until after that point. So we will be finished with a lot of things before then. So.
Thanks for the photo tour. This is excellent.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And it's a great project.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
The people
it was all my idea.
Are really positive.
No.
Well, take credit for it because something goes wrong, you'll get the blame anyway.
But that's true. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you now. Questions or comments? Are there any other questions from the trustee in general? Comments from the staff? Comments from the public? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust of February 22nd, 2011. Welcome. I'm glad you're all here today. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the January 25th meeting, and these minutes have been distributed to you all previously. Are there any comments, corrections, or additions to the minutes?
No, but I'd like to move approval, please.
Have motion made and second. Is there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor, please cast your votes. We cast votes? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We cast our votes, and it carries. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda, item 3, is the ratification of some claims that have been processed by the trust. These claims are all associated with the TIF projects downtown. Are there any questions on any of the projects that were listed on the claim sheet? The chair would entertain a motion to ratify the claims. Have motion made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor, please cast your votes. And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, we have a group of items that we have to consider individually. The first, item 4A, is a concurrence with the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust in a project that involves our PAYCOM investment. Is there any comment or questions on that particular item? Kathy, anything you'd like to say on that one?
No, just that it's a concurrence item with the Water Trust for the water and sewer line improvements, and we don't really have any funding in this part of it.
Are there any other questions or comments? The chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion made and second. Further discussion? Cast your votes, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. Item B is an outlet mall project. This is some of the infrastructure work the Oklahoma Department of Transportation and the City of Oklahoma City have been negotiating on. Are there any questions or comments on this particular project? Chair would entertain a motion to concur in this particular project.
Second.
A motion made and second. Further discussion? Please cast your votes, and the item is approved. Thank you very much. Item C is another PAYCOM project, and this is related to the sewer work we're doing up there. Any questions or comments? Chair would entertain a motion to concur.
So move.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? Please cast your votes. And the item is approved. Thank you very much. Item D is, excuse me, is also related to PAYCOM. Is there any questions or discussion on item D? Chair would entertain a motion for concurrence.
So move.
With the small crew, you guys are going to have to step up a little bit there. Please cast your votes. And we concur on item D. Item E is a little different. This is a project that relates to the work we're doing downtown, I believe. Yes, the TIF project. Are there questions? We have the TIF Project 180 experts in the room, so if we have questions, we can get those resolved. Are there any questions on this particular project? Larry, I'm sorry.
Well, just to reiterate, Kathy, if you would, the work that's being done on Project 180 is being funded with TIF money, which is a result of what's going on with the Devon Tower. And there is some money in the redoing of the Myriad Gardens that's part of the 2007 bond program.
Right, and actually the street improvements are a combination of tax increment financing funding from the Devon headquarters project and general obligation bond funds from the 2007 bond authorization.
Okay, I still have some constituents who keep asking this question, that's why I go over it. But there are no MAPS 3 monies involved in what we just outlined.
That's right, that's absolutely correct.
So I just want to make that clarification for our folks out there.
Yeah.
This is not MAPS 3 money that you see dirt being turned downtown right now.
Project 180 is not funded with any MAPS 3 money.
Thank you.
Rhonda.
Just a general comment, since we do have Laura in the audience. What is the overall status of progress, and with the weather being cooperative, and are we on schedule?
Our story with Project 180. Overall, we're going real well with our schedule. We are a little bit behind on Package 2, which is up by the memorial. Packages 1 and 3, which had our major deadlines for the Arts Festival, are right on task. April 8th, Allen Construction will be finished with the majority of their work, and it will be open to the public as necessary for the Arts Festival. Sherwood Construction.
Allen Construction is doing the project that's along Reno and Robinson that we call package number 1. So that piece will be completed the 1st of April.
Thank you. And then package number 3 is the one on Walker and causing the most disruption to our campus. And they are along Walker, Sheridan, and Main, right out in front of us. And they're supposed to be finished with everything south of the center line of Sheridan Avenue by April 11th, okay? There will be some things that we need to tidy up before the Arts Festival, but this morning we had a meeting and everybody feels like they are on task to complete that and be ready for the Arts Festival. So we're really, really pleased, and the contractors are working really well with each other and with the public.
Laura, in terms of budget, are you satisfied with the projects being close to being on budget?
Yes, I am satisfied that they are working within their budget.
Okay, good. And approximately, for some of the people who've asked the question about the TIF and GO bond money, what is the approximate ratio of TIF to GO bond money in Project 180?
Well, there's $26 million in bond funds, and the remaining is TIF funds, 36.
Yeah, I think the breakdown is $115 million in TIF money and $39 million in general obligation bond funds. And that does include the general obligation bond funds that were allocated for the Myriad Gardens. There was about almost $13 million that was for the Myriad Gardens from the GO bond authorization.
And I think it's very important to recognize that the money in the GO bond funding is coming from listed projects that were going to be spent in this area anyway. No undesignated funding from the GO bond program is coming into this project. It's all listed and would have been spent in this location anyway, every bit of it.
Are there any other questions? Since we've got Laura up here, we want to ask about the Project 180? Laura, thank you very much. Let's see, now we're on item E, as I remember. We have yet to approve item E.
So move on item E.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Please cast your votes, and the item is approved. Item F is a change order, again relating to the Myriad Gardens renovation project. Are there any questions or comments about item F? Or pardon me, F, yes, I'm sorry. We have the expert here, and so this is an opportunity now to get the right information. The chair will entertain a motion to approve change order number 2.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion or comments or questions? Cast your votes. Item F is approved. Item G is, again, a project that relates to the Myriad Gardens. This is another change order and a relatively minor increase given the total project cost. Are there any questions or comments about item G?
I'd like to move.
A motion made and seconded to approve item G. Is there any further discussion? Cast your votes, and item G is approved. Item H is a little different. It's a quarterly report for the OKC Technology Business Launch Initiative for the second quarter of fiscal year 2011. And I think we have a presenter today.
Tom Walker with I2E. Thank you for having us here today. I think we have a few slides to run through for you on the progress of the project that you funded to match the federal EDA grant. We're in our third quarter, and if I could, I'll just click through this in an efficient manner. As an overview, the project is designed to help high-growth companies here in this region start up and grow and be stronger when they start up here in Oklahoma City. There are 4 main components to the program. The first was to assist us in creating an entrepreneur and an executive in residence program. The second was expanding and growing an angel group here in the region. The third is kicking off a fellowship program with college students, linking them with startup companies as well as services within I2E. And then the fourth was actually funded by PHF, and that is the expansion of our space and making it more attuned to helping entrepreneurs here in the region. So I'll give you a little bit of an update on each. The first, the Entrepreneur and Executive in Residence program. Through the second quarter, we completely designed that program and also made some of our initial hires on the Executive in Residence. The design of this program is to ultimately allow us to provide CFO-level services to startup companies, as well as marketing and sales pipeline services to these companies. We've made the hire of the sales pipeline individuals, and actually, as an update for you on that, we've helped companies really grow their sales pipeline and even access sales within the first 2 quarters of this program. So we're really pleased with that. We still have not hired the CFO in residence. We've been searching for about 45 days and continue to search. So finding the key people are the most important thing.
Tom, if I might ask you a question on the sales thing. It says you served 2 Oklahoma City companies. You had 785 prospective customers. Were those other companies that you didn't have the resources to help? Or?
Those were actually sales calls for those companies. So it sort of gives you a sense in just 2 companies the type of funnel that we have to go out and targeting. Actually, these are national calls that we're making to help grow those sales.
And they resulted in 106 sales appointments?
They did.
Exactly. Good. Thank you very much, Tom.
The Seed Step Angel Group is another important component of this project. You know, everything we're doing in helping these startup companies requires risk capital. These companies are not bankable, and so one of the things we spend a lot of time on is how do we close that capital gap for entrepreneurs here in the region. So what we've started is the first ever managed angel group in Oklahoma, let alone Oklahoma City here. So I'm real proud of the progress that we're making. We've hired our first ever angel group manager. So we now have a young man on staff that's managing the Angel Initiative. And we have held our membership and best practice training session for the Angels. That happened in November on the river in one of the boathouse facilities. We've screened 12 investment opportunities at the Angel Group. They've reviewed 4 company presentations, and they've actually made an investment in an Oklahoma City company. All the investment dollars, as a reminder, these are the angel investors' investment dollars. What we're doing, what we're bringing to the table is the organization around screening deals and providing the angels best practices. Yes?
Tom, are your angels primarily Oklahoma-based, or are you broadening horizons?
We have one Dallas angel. The rest are all Oklahoma-based, and primarily Oklahoma City right now. We're also launching this group in other parts of the state as well. But it's a good question. And that Dallas angel, he actually has a home here too. So I think there's a lot of absolutely. So a lot of work yet to be done on this group, but we're really proud of the early results that we have. The fellowship program is really exciting, and it's also one of the programs here that is changing, ever changing, because we're learning a lot about the impacts we can make to these college students. Just as an overview for this program, what we do is interview college students who are interested in entrepreneurship and have the time and capacity to spend time in a startup company here in Oklahoma City, so they actually learn what it's like to be in a startup and wear multiple hats. They really shadow the CEO, so the CEOs of these companies really have to buy into this program. Another important aspect of the program is we're bringing fellows into our staff as well at I2E. The important part about that is working with us, they get to learn all the aspects of building a business plan and a marketing plan. They also get to work with our investment staff and learn what it means to be an investor and review these opportunities. So we've had hired our first 2 fellows. They've started in our office. We've also have the search out for the summer fellowship program, which is where we place these students into companies. We have over 30 applications. So the universities that are participating are on board, and they're really helping us with the applications and the screening process. We have also launched a new fellows website on the I2E site, so you can see that as well, and you'll see changes in marketing around that program throughout the year. So next steps in the third quarter, primarily we're really targeting to hire the CFO in residence. In fact, you'll see a search for that in the paper probably, if not this weekend, next week at some point. So all referrals are welcome at this point. We're hiring a marketing and event person to help us with the Entrepreneur in Residence series, which I'll share more with you on the next slide, and continue the sales pilot, and also launch the fellows program, those fellows in the summer, placing them in companies. So a lot of great activity in the first 2 quarters, but as we sit here in the third quarter, I wanted to share with you just a little snapshot of what's occurred this quarter already. We had our first Entrepreneur in Residence session on February 8th, and we had a half-day session on trends in raising capital, and we brought in curriculum through the National Angel Capital Association, and we targeted 23 companies here in the region that participated in the half-day session. And it was the entire session was how to raise money and what is the climate like in today's market and how you build your plan and target that type of capital. It was really a successful event. We also, our lead entrepreneur in residence, Mr. Bill Payne, spent time with 10 companies on a one-on-one basis to help them think through their plan. And he, I should have mentioned in the beginning, he's our lead entrepreneur in residence. He's actually not from Oklahoma, which is an interesting part of this program. We're linking to successful entrepreneurs in other regions, so we build bridges with successful entrepreneurial regions, so hopefully we can get some of that capital to flow in here. So anyway, it's been a very successful program. A couple of stats I wanted to share. Those 23 companies represent roughly 42 FTEs in the region. They have nearly an $800,000 payroll, which is pretty significant for these startup companies. Roughly a little over $2 million in revenue, but one of the interesting stats is those companies in total are trying to raise $3.3 million right now in private equity capital. So it shows you the type of gap that we have here and how critical some of these programs are to assist them in growing. Our open house at our PHF facilities is on March 10th. You're all invited. It's from 5 to 7, and this will give you a chance to really see the environment in which these entrepreneurs are being assisted. And that's all for that part of my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Yeah, Larry?
Yeah, on page 6 of your handout.
Yes, sir.
Right up, you talk about a new term, dashboard.
Yes.
Which I call a scoreboard. That's going to be what you're going to measure and report back on?
Yes.
Could you very quickly, so I have the right expectations, what are some of the categories that are going to be in that dashboard?
It'll be jobs in FTE. It'll be revenue in the companies and also revenue growth. Some of the sales statistics that we're able to track in the services that we're providing the companies. It's also going to be items such as how many entrepreneurs access the training programs, because a big part of this initiative is training for these entrepreneurs. So everything from hardcore jobs data to also some of the more training-related statistics. Then on the Angel Group, how much money are we able to invest in these companies?
So we would be able to see, as we go along here on the dashboard, the efforts from I2E through this entrepreneurship program, that X number of jobs have been created.
Ultimately, absolutely.
And then Y dollars in revenue, not Y dollars in investment that the, quote, angels, unquote, have been willing to put up into the companies to get them started and going.
That's right. Those types of dashboards are pretty common for us, so we're prepared to do that.
And will we see a dashboard when? When will we start?
Oh, ultimately, this will be our annual report. We launch every year we do a survey of our client companies, and we launch this year's survey next month, actually. So we complete all that work in the July timeframe every year. It will be part of our annual report. Thank you. It's a good question.
Tom, in addition to the quantitative dashboard, which is very critical, I think sometimes it's helpful to also have the qualitative input and how it's really making differences and the emotional components of those stats to make sure we're staying on track and doing the best programs we can.
That's a good comment. I appreciate that.
Tom, on your dashboard item that it goes to the number of jobs created, will you have a related dashboard entry, whatever, that reflect the average salaries of those people?
I missed, you trailed off on the...
I'm sorry, I got confused. I was thinking what I was saying, and that's bad. Will you give us some information as to average salaries of the people that you...
Average salaries? Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I can even tell you what our goal is. Our goal is at least $65,000 average salary, and that's typically what we can hit in these types of companies, which is roughly double the per capita personal income. But absolutely.
That'd be great. That would be a great number.
Well, you know, so my colleague, Rex Smitherman, VP of Operations, is in the back, and he's laughing at me right now because we actually had that slide for you today, and I deleted it. So we have that information, and we'll have it in there next time.
You need to pay more attention to Rex.
Yeah, exactly. Any further questions?
Is there any other questions or comments by the...
Well, if I read this right, he was supposed to do the presentation anyway on the handout I've got.
Rex, you should have been up here.
That's what it says. Rex Smitherman, Vice President of Operations, will provide a presentation. So
he'll be here for you next time.
We don't want to, Larry. That would be over. Any other comments or questions? Tom, thank you very much.
I'm item I as well, so.
And status update for Predent, one of our old projects as far as we're concerned.
Absolutely. The President, James Haddock of Predent, could not be here today because of a conflict. So I'm going to do my best to share with you the update on advancing animal oral health care. Background of this project is this is the funding project where the Emerging Technology Program matched the TBFP program, the Technology Business Finance Program that I2E manages. That was a total of $200,000 between the two entities into this company. Some of the initial milestones are here on the background slide for them to draw down the capital. And all of those milestones were met in April and November, respectively. So the company drew down the $200,000 in late 2009. They continue to develop the science, and so what I've tried to do for you here today is pull together the major events that they've uncovered as they've gone through the path. But in a nutshell, they're roughly about 12 to 14 months behind in developing the technology. For life sciences, that is not that unusual. What happened with this company, and I've highlighted the changes actually that are the shaded areas there. When they engaged with the USDA and they submitted their antibiotic, the USDA changed their protocols on what types of antibiotics that they wanted the company to use. So they had to go back to the drawing board and use a new antibiotic, and it delayed them for 12 months. But as it stands today, with relative to the contract they have with us and you, they're in compliance. All financial reports have been submitted. You know, all of that sort of thing is in place. The good news about the delays is that the company still has $162,000 of the $200,000 in the bank. So they were able to really stop their burn rate as they, met with the USDA and got the new vaccine in place. 90% of the remaining funds are all targeted for the research and the animal studies, which was in the initial business plan. And so those are the targeted future expenditures, which are basically the vaccine trial study for manufacturing, the regulatory support, and all the other animal clinical studies. And so the next 6 months, here's what the company reports to us. They hope to execute the modified material transfer agreement with the University of Oklahoma. This is technology that comes out of the university, and some of the continued research is still at OU. All the way down to the initial interim small animal studies. So they continue to move forward on the technology. It looks like everything is cleared through the USDA at this point, but that was the primary delay, and just making sure they had the right antibiotic to go through vaccines. Yes?
Tom, to your knowledge, are they the only ones in that sphere, pre-dent, offering this?
There are competitors, and I won't be able to give those to you off the top of my head, Rhonda, but this is a patented technology, so their approach is new and novel.
But the diversion of antibiotics will not be a negative to them entering the environment, will it?
Well, the timing delay is a concern, but there's another way to look at this is, once we all funded this company, the economy changed, as we all know. And so ultimately this company is going to need to raise a lot of venture capital. So hopefully the delay is going to get us into a time period where those capital markets look a little bit different. I'm trying to make some lemonade out of lemons there for you.
Larry, question?
Question for Kathy. Our approach to this one is a little bit different than our approach to some others where we have paying for jobs created and with a clawback. Is it safe to say that when we did pre-dent, we kind of act as a little bit as an angel investor?
Yes, in effect, that's what we do in the Emerging Technologies program. It's where we make smaller, forgivable loans to companies, much smaller than what we would typically do in our strategic investment program in the standard program.
Tom, absent any big upheaval like the antibiotic issue, when might this product get to the market?
Oh, we're still 3-4 years, if longer. It's a long process.
Long process. Okay. Are there any other questions? Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Another presentation, item J, a presentation regarding the Chamber's efforts with the bioscience industry in Oklahoma City. And Mr. Carl Edwards is going to do that for us. Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have sat in positions where you all are and listened to presentations many times, and I hope that I can do a better job than some of the people who've done it when I've been up there with you all. Thanks very much for the opportunity to report on the bioscience industry here in Oklahoma City. As chair of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber and the Presbyterian Health Foundation and the Oklahoma Bioscience Association, I want to thank the city for its support for this growing industry. The Chamber has taken an active role in the development of the bioscience industry in the Oklahoma City area. It began in 2005 when the Chamber sponsored a bioscience strategic plan and economic impact study done by the Battelle Consulting Group, and they have updated this study in the past year, and we will talk about some of their findings in just a moment, but they have become the basis of our program in the industry. We have a dedicated staff person who works specifically in this arena, and we have led a delegation of bioscience leaders to the Biotechnology Industry Organization annual international convention for each of the last 7 years. Next slide, please. Bioscience is a broad-based term. While biomedical is the main focus in Oklahoma City, and particularly the Oklahoma Health Center, there is also significant work being done in energy, food, sensors, and agriculture along the I-35 corridor from Stillwater through Oklahoma City and south to Ardmore. It is safe to say that work is being done in all these areas and that impacts all Oklahomans. Bioscience is an important bridge between business, healthcare, and education. It is treatments and detections for Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes, and lupus, diseases that impact in some way nearly every Oklahoma family. Bioscience plays an important role in the economic health of the Oklahoma City region. According to our recent economic impact study done by Battelle, bioscience has a $6.7 billion economic impact in the region. The industry has nearly 28,000 jobs with an average salary of nearly $50,000, well above our average salary for the community. Next slide, please. There's been several important milestones in the bioscience industry over the past 5 years. The Chamber has been a founding member of the Oklahoma Bioscience Association, which is making valuable contributions to continuing education, policy, and other advocacy work in the industry. The EDGE Research Endowment, remind you, it's Economic Development Generating Excellence Endowment Fund, has fostered public-private partnerships, job creation, and valuable support for early-stage companies in several industries. The Oklahoma Seed Capital Fund, a state program from the Oklahoma Center for the Advancement of Science and Technology that is managed by I2E, provides early-stage investment for startup companies in several industries. This important resource helps keep companies in Oklahoma while helping the same companies find other financial partners. There's been several $100 million spent on expansion products for key bioscience partners like the Dean McGee Eye Institute, the Presbyterian Health Foundation Research Park, the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center, particularly the Presbyterian Children's Hospital, and the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. This increased infrastructure not only helps recruit scientists, but it also helps attract more grant dollars that lead to more discovery. Several of our startup companies also are making great progress. Orthocare Innovations, a prosthetics manufacturing and R&D company, moved its corporate headquarters to Oklahoma City. Innovion, a medical services company that detects, stages, and monitors eye diseases, was recently acquired by a German company, but will continue to operate in the PHF Research Park. Comentus, a biopharmaceutical company engaged in the discovery and development of drugs to treat Alzheimer's disease and cognitive disorders, has a $750 million development deal with the venture capital firm of Astellas, a multi-billion-dollar Japanese pharma company. Celexis Pharmaceuticals, a company developing novel new products to treat inflammatory diseases, has brought in millions in federal funding while attracting interest from several national investors. Next slide, please. However, the industry faces some significant challenges. In order to keep our companies in the Oklahoma City area, we need more local early-stage investment. We have to continue supporting our industry strengths, whether it's in research, policy, or support services. We sometimes forget that bioscience is a global industry. We can't limit our vision and priorities to what is happening in Dallas or Kansas City. We need to address challenges while looking at partners and opportunities around the world. We must not become complacent with our accomplishments. In order to build this industry, we must keep growing and collaborating. Developing our workforce is an important example of why we can't rest on our laurels. As our companies grow and research capabilities expand, we will need more from our workforce. Our colleges and universities, career tech centers, economic development organizations, and state leaders all play an important role in the continued development of our workforce. Next slide, please. The bioscience industry is an important piece of the puzzle that represents a diversified economy in Oklahoma City area. One of the first things we learned in this initiative is that no one organization can do it all. Continued collaboration is essential if we want to create more wealth, innovation, and prosperity. Thank you very much for your support at the city, and anything we can do in the future to answer any questions, we'll be pleased to do so. Thanks.
Carl, to help me understand better, you had a distinction early on, I thought, between bioscience and biomedicine.
Yes, sir.
And the companies you talked about at the Presbyterian Health Foundation, those would be classified as biomedicine companies?
Biomedical, yes.
Is there any bioscience, your definition, being done, work done here in Oklahoma City?
I'm going to let my expert, Josh O'Brien, help me with that one.
Yes, sir. There's a variety of different kinds. We use bioscience because that's the broadest base, and when you look at the region that we work with primarily, you have it all, whether it's the medical device, whether it is R&D, whether it is clinical trials, whether it was biomedical specifically. We do have a variety of that. Yes, sir.
Questions? Carl, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Josh, thank you. Next item on our agenda, item V, the general manager reports. Are there any comments or questions? Kathy, do you have some comments?
You have the monthly general manager's report in your packet. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. Again, our probably largest area of activity is in the Devon World Headquarters TIF district and the expenditures in that area. I do want to point out that we continue to work on several of the strategic investment program projects, and soon we will be making our first payment to AAA of about $550,000 for the creation of 550 jobs. So that's been a very successful project for us, and I think as of the end of August, they actually had about 740 employees at that location in Oklahoma City. So very successful project for us. And the other thing that I had was we handed out to you a memo that is a quarterly status report on the employment land needs study. If you remember, the trust provided a match to an EDA grant to complete a study to help us identify possible employment land sites in the future. It's information that we're going to be able to use in the city's comprehensive planning process and update of the comp plan. So right now in this in this report, basically the work that's being done is data gathering, data analysis. There's a lot of geographical information system kind of data that has to be looked at in order to figure out where these sites are located or could be located. And then in the next quarter, they'll be providing us with quite a few of the reports and results that we expected. So, and we'll probably be having some focus group meetings and things like that. And we hope to have the consultant come and make a report to you about the study in the next quarter. So we are still working on that, and Jeff Butler with the planning department's here to answer any more specific questions. But right now, it's
Excuse me. Questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. The next item are comments from the staff, trustees, and citizens. Comments from the staff? Comments from our citizens? Comments from the trustees? I almost forgot them. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.